Bountiful harvest we made this month, a tour of the California garden, some things for you to do, review of some cool gardening products. All this and a lot more coming up. So let's begin with all the harvests we made this month. Starting with broccoli. Our broccoli plants were growing in containers mostly, and you can look at this big head of broccoli that we are harvesting. So once you harvest the main head of the broccoli, you can continue to harvest the side shoots. And this is why I love growing broccoli. It will keep giving you broccoli heads like these for quite a long time. And here are some more side florets that you can keep harvesting. So although we had most of our broccoli growing in containers, you can also grow them in raised beds, you can grow them in the ground, but they yield very well when grown in containers as well, as you can see. And here are some more broccoli florets. Once again, the plant is quite loaded with these florets. And broccoli is not only extremely delicious, it is also very good for your health. You can look at our harvest here, beautiful looking broccoli florets that are fresh and delicious. Cabbage. Cabbage grows best in the cooler months, and you can see our raised bed here full of cabbage plants, and we are harvesting some of these cabbage heads. Now remember that depending on how far apart you plant your cabbages and how many nutrients are there in the soil, the size of your cabbage heads will vary a lot. You can see these are relatively smaller heads of cabbage. They're quite firm though, and when you harvest a lot of cabbages like these, you can get enough cabbage for all your cooking needs. Cauliflower. One of my other favorite plants to grow in the winter season are cauliflowers. Now this cauliflower that you see here looks a little different from your regular cauliflower, and that's just because the head has developed in this way. It's more crispy than the standard cauliflower, which you see here that we're harvesting. Once again, these are beautiful looking cauliflower heads. Now the size and shape of your cauliflower head will depend on the amount of nutrients in the soil. And you can also grow purple cauliflowers like these. These are beautiful looking cauliflowers. The purple color means they have a lot of vitamins and minerals that are good for your body. And you can look at our harvest here, beautiful looking cauliflower head. Moving on to cilantro. Also called as coriander. However, the greens are actually cilantro and the seeds are coriander. We're harvesting these in bunches like you see here. And you saw us harvesting cilantro last month as well. And these will keep coming back. You can see how much rain we got here in Southern California. I had to harvest some of these cilantro greens while it was raining, but these have grown really well, very fresh, very aromatic cilantro. These are really nice looking bunches. And you can look at a harvest here, beautiful looking cilantro. Moving on to fenugreek. Fenugreek greens are a very nice addition to your home garden. They are extremely easy to grow. Fenugreek greens are not only delicious, but they're also very nutritious. And you can grow fenugreek greens in containers like these and harvest them in bunches after about 2 months or so. They grow really well. They require almost no nutrients to be added in the soil. This soil contains a mix of potting mix and a lot of compost. And this helped us grow very good looking fenugreek greens that you see here. Mustard. We were growing our red leaf mustard plant on our raised beds, and you can see how big these leaves are. And as the plant grows bigger, the leaves will keep getting bigger as well. And red leaf mustard leaves are pungent, delicious. They almost have a little spicy taste to them. Very unique taste, it's hard to describe, but we not only eat mustard greens raw, we also cook them. And to cook mustard greens, we boil them with spinach leaves, add some lentils, add some spices, and it makes a really good dish that you can eat with tortillas or rice. And you can look at our mustard greens here, beautiful looking red leaf mustard greens. Papaya. Our solo papaya tree had a lot of papayas that were ripening. Here is one of them. The solo papaya is one of the most prolific and most delicious papaya varieties that you can grow in your home garden. Radish. We first started harvesting our pink lady slipper radish. Now this is a 30-day radish. It grows pretty quickly. It produces small radish roots that you see here. and they are extremely delicious. They are not as pungent as some of the other varieties, so we eat them raw. We eat these radishes raw, and it's not only the radish roots that you can eat, the radish greens are edible as well, and they also have a very unique flavor, just like mustard greens. And don't worry if your radish size is smaller. These are extremely fast growing radishes. They do not grow huge radish roots, but you can grow several crops one after the other because they grow so quickly. And you can look at our harvest here, beautiful looking radishes. And we also had our Korean radish growing in a container. We planted about 16 Korean radishes in this one whiskey barrel container. And you can see how nicely they grow even when they are planted close to each other. And this Korean radish produced quite a decent sized radish root, as you can see. And we could have technically let it grow even more, but the weather will warm up soon and these radishes will go to bolt. So this is a good time to harvest your radishes before the spring weather sets in. And you can look at the radish roots here. These are beautiful looking radish roots. And in such a small space, we were amazed that we could grow and harvest so many radishes. The soil is a good mix of organic material, worm castings. All of this provides a lot of nutrients to these radishes to grow. And as always, I would not recommend adding any fertilizer for radish because they don't need a lot of fertilizer and you don't want a lot of greens. You want good sized roots like you see here. So compared to the Minoves radish and the daikon radish, these radishes are very similar in taste, but they are a little smaller. However, they are also quite thick in size, so the amount of radish root that you get from these plants is still quite a lot. And radishes, once again, are cool season crops. You should grow them in the winter season. They love the fall and the winter season. Although they will grow year round in Southern California, you are best off growing radishes in the cooler weather, when you cannot grow the other warm season crops like tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and all that good stuff. And just look at our harvest here. A lot of radishes from just a small space. Once they are washed up, they look amazing. These are delicious looking, very crispy and nice Korean radish. Spinach. We had spinach growing in several areas of our garden. This one is on the raised bed next to the taro root plants. And you can look at our harvest here. And we were back on a rainy day to harvest some more spinach. You can see that it's still raining while I'm harvesting these spinach leaves. We did need that rain though. We did need a lot of rain here in Southern California. So it was good to see a lot of rain. The plants were happy. And plants like spinach, they love the rain. They like a lot of water. Most of spinach is actually water and nutrients. So spinach loves growing in these conditions. Hot, dry conditions are something that spinach doesn't like at all. So as long as you have a lot of moisture in the soil, the weather is nice and cool, you will keep getting good quality spinach from your garden. And you can see this taro area is once again full of spinach leaves. So spinach is one of the classic cut and come again plants that you can grow in your home garden. And you can just snip off the leaves from the sides just like you see here and get a huge harvest of spinach from your garden. Just look at these leaves here, beautiful looking spinach leaves. And here is our harvest. As you can see, we got a lot of spinach from a relatively small area in our garden. Tangerines. These are the gold nugget tangerines, something that I've recommended growing in your home garden. And the reason I recommend this variety of tangerine is that it's extremely sweet. As long as you provide a lot of nutrients like compost and worm castings and make sure that you prune the tree well throughout the year, this plant will produce really good tasting tangerines and they're extremely sweet and very delicious. You can look at our tangerine harvest here, beautiful looking tangerines and very delicious as well. And now let's take a tour of the garden, starting with the raised beds. In our first raised bed, we have some cauliflowers growing. Cauliflowers are excellent cool season crops. And you can see one cauliflower that's almost ready for harvest now. We have a lot of spinach and beets in the center. They're all growing pretty well. And we just planted our first tomato plants. These are 2 tomato plants that we just planted. These were volunteered plants, and I'm really excited to see how these grow. On the next raised bed, you can see the carrot seedlings are now growing quite well. We thinned them out as well. The radishes are growing quite nice. They're almost ready for harvest. We have some spinach, some more radish. These are the purple radishes, followed by some more radish, carrots, and some kohlrabis on the side. On the next raised bed, we have some lettuce plants. These are growing quite well, and I am waiting for it to mature a little more. We have our shallots that have taken off now. We just planted 2 more plants. This one is a cutie pie pepper and the millionaire eggplant on the back. We still have our cabbages growing, as you can see, producing some good sized heads. And a lot of red acre cabbage plants that will mature very soon. And 1 more cauliflower plant here. We also sowed some asparagus beans on the sides of the trellis, but the weather is too cold, so we'll see how that goes. We have cabbages on our next raised bed. This one is a huge cabbage, as you can see. Some more cabbages in the center, cauliflowers on the side. And this is our red leaf mustard plant, looking quite good. We have a lot of spinach plants here, as you can see, doing well due to the rains we received. And in the final raised bed, we have some more red leaf mustard plants. And this spinach plant is now going to seed. We have some beets and some potatoes that we planted. You can see that we had planted our seed potatoes last month, and you can see the potato plants have grown quite well now. And some more beets here. They are maturing quite fast. We have 3 cauliflower plants here. They're all doing quite well. And all the spinach that we planted in between our taro root plants, all doing quite well. And on the back, we have our ivy gourd plants, which have not taken off yet. And now let's take a tour of our container garden. In our first container, we have our longevity spinach plant growing, followed by kohlrabi. You can see the kohlrabi heads are beginning to mature now. They will be ready for harvest very soon. We have our cauliflower plants. They have taken off quite well. We have our early long eggplant that's not looking too good right now. You can see some dried leaves. Our broccoli plant is now flowering. We did harvest a lot of broccoli from this plant. We have another broccoli plant in the next container and some cilantro here. We have carrots growing in the next container, followed by this container that has nothing in it because we harvested the Korean radishes. We have our Burpee A1 carrots, followed by our Egyptian walking onions that have recovered now. We have broccoli in the next container, producing a lot of broccoli florets. And actually below the broccoli are some strawberry plants, the white strawberry plants that you can't really see clearly. We have our black beauty eggplant. This is one of our first eggplants for the season. Hopefully it will grow quickly. We have our sorrel leaves. This is the red veined sorrel. These are ready for harvest anytime now. Followed by this container where we planted our blue potato plants. They have not popped out yet, but they will show up anytime. Our ivy gourd plant is not doing that great due to the cooler weather. Our mint plant looks really nice, fresh leaves, new leaves that can be harvested. We have our Indian spinach variety that's growing quite well in this container. It has a nice buttery taste. We have our potato onions that are looking quite good now with all the rains. We have our potato plants. These are the potatoes that we planted from potatoes in the pantry. Some sweet potato plants in the next container, followed by broccoli. You can see some more broccoli florets here. We did harvest a lot of broccoli this month. We have our shallots, 3 shallot plants in this container, followed by kale, which is now overdue for harvest, and then our taro root plants, which are doing okay. It's been very cold for taro. And this is our chile de arbol, hot pepper, that we just planted. And that completes the tour of our container garden. And now let's look at some things for you to do in your garden this month. We are planting sweet potatoes first. You can find sweet potatoes and other seeds in your local garden center this month. And for sweet potatoes, we won't be planting them extremely deep, but just a little deep so that they can grow their tubers downward. And sweet potatoes will grow and produce tubers below the surface of the soil, just around the main plant. And we're also planting some blue seed potatoes. Now we are planting blue potatoes because it's very hard to find blue potatoes in the grocery store. So it's good to plant these kind of varieties at home. And you can see these have already started growing. And all we do is plant them really deep. Unlike sweet potatoes, we plant potatoes deeper in the soil because they will send out shoots pretty quickly even if they are buried deep. And they will produce more potatoes when planted this way. This is called the trench method of growing potatoes, and it has worked very well for me in the past. Amending your raised bed garden soil is extremely important. If you are growing in the ground as well, this is a good time to add some compost or some good quality planting mix. If you can't get compost in your area, get some planting mix. It has a lot of organic matter. It's available at most nurseries and garden centers. Add some worm castings. Prepare your beds well. If you want, you can add some organic fertilizer as well, but you can do that during planting time rather than now. But all in all, your goal is to prepare your raised beds very well for the upcoming season so that you can grow some great plants. Next, you can also start some seeds. You can still start seeds for tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. And make sure you check out my video on seed starting, which I covered in a previous episode. It's a very detailed episode on how to start your own seeds very easily. And if you start your seeds now, you will be in time for transplanting your plants in about 4 to 6 weeks. So if you had followed me and started your plants back in January, you should be ready to transplant all your seedlings next week, which is the ideal time for planting, at least in Southern California. After the first week of March, I think most plants will settle down very easily into your garden. And this is the time when you should start transplanting most of your seedlings, your spring crops, like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. And they'll grow very well once the spring season begins, which is upon us any day now. In the gardening product section, I wanted to quickly touch base upon the Greenstock herb planter versus the Greenstock original planter. I recently published a full video review on the Greenstock leaf planter, which is a great system by the way. And I've gotten a lot of questions around these two products. So I'm just going to explain you a few differences between these two products and which one should you buy depending on what you're growing. So I've grown everything from tomatoes to peppers, to eggplants, and almost everything on the original Greenstock planter. And I've been quite happy. I've grown broccoli, cauliflower, a lot of other large plants in the winter season in the original Greenstock planter. But then when the leaf planter came out, the Greenstock leaf planter came out, I realized that the design for the leaf planter is even better. It has smaller pockets. The pockets on the Greenstock leaf planter are about 3 inches smaller than the original Greenstock planter. But due to its smaller size, it means that you can get more tiers for the same height of the original Greenstock planter. So you're getting 42 pockets to grow your plants in the Greenstock leaf planter compared to the 30 slots for the original Greenstock planter, which is 5 tiers. Now we are comparing a 5-tier original planter against a 7-tier leaf planter because they are roughly the same height. So we are comparing similar products. So which one should you go for? That's the question, right? So it depends. It depends on what kind of vegetables are you planning to grow. Now, if you are growing a combination of both big vegetables and small vegetables, like me, you can have one of both, one original and one leaf planter. But if you want to stay safe and use the largest container possible, I would suggest buying the original green stalk planter. However, the design and the use and the efficacy of the green stalk leaf planter, in my opinion, makes it the better choice between the two, because you can grow a lot of things in the leaf planter too. It's not that it's very small, it's pretty decently sized for growing almost everything you need. So yeah, my recommendation would be, if you had to choose only one, go for the green stalk leaf planter. But if possible, if you can manage to have two green stalk planters, use the original planter for larger plants like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, which are bigger, and then use the leaf planter for herbs and onions and some other smaller plants, and you'll be perfectly fine. If you have any more questions, please put them in the comments box below and I'll be happy to answer them. So there we have it, folks. That's how our garden looks like in February, and also all those gardening tips and tricks that you learned. If you like this video, do give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments box below. If you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button to ensure you get all future updates. We'll see you again soon. Happy gardening!